Hey guys, this is Manisha, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Archgyan Podcast, where you will get some awesome gyan on architecture, tech, design, and a whole lot more. Today, I'm super stoked to have with us Mayukh Raha, who is a landscape architect at CGP Corporation, where they design, develop, and manage infrastructure and building facilities. Mayukh is a graduate from SPA Delhi, where he did his master's in landscape architecture, securing first class distinction. He has 3 years of professional experience in the field of transportation, landscape, architecture, master planning, and environmental designs. He has worked on various scales of projects, diverse in nature, ranging from premium residential complexes to townships. He's also worked on urban and public spaces. So, in this episode, he talks about his journey, what exactly is landscape architecture, the scope of landscape architecture, masters in landscape architecture, the design process of a typical landscape project, the future of where this field is headed, and a whole lot more. So for episode show notes, links, and more, head to archgyan.com/53, or you'll find it in the description below. Now let's jump straight to the episode and learn more about what exactly is landscape architecture. Let's go. Before we jump into landscape architecture, what made you get into architecture? Like, was it just because of exam that you gave, or was it that you always wanted to become an architect?
Okay, I don't want to be dishonest. I want to be honest. Okay, and I don't want to bluff. And if I say that I always wanted to be an architect, so yeah, definitely I'm bluffing because it's true. Why? Because see, I belong to a very small town. Okay, and over here people are very much conservative. Conservative in the sense, what I meant is their outlook. you know uh, so if you're studying something, okay, so you have got two options: either you be an engineer, or you be a doctor, or okay, if you haven't opted science, then you can study literature, then you can either prepare for civil service or do something else, right? Architecture is something which people, they're not so much aware, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Now, what happened in my case that it was 2010 when I gave my plus two. So, so it was the time when I was supposed to fill up my AIEEE form,
yeah,
and during that time, I think, so far I remember, we had to submit the form, or we had to submit the exam fees in in some Axis Bank branches out of that, and during that time in our hometown there was no such branch access bank branches where we could submit those
right,
forms.
right.
So technically my cousin used to live in Calcutta, so so basically he took that responsibility, and on my behalf he went and submitted that form. So during that time, I got a call from my cousin. He was like, "Okay, Mayukh, listen. See, there are two things. You can, if you, I think you need to pay some 750, and then you can appear for both the papers. And if you pay 500 out of that, then
Yeah, exactly. Even
you can
my
only opt
story
for
was along
BTech."
the same lines. It was just a bonus
Yeah.
exam that we
So
gave, right?
yeah, exactly. Then I was like, okay, so okay, let's give it. Okay, and
Yeah,
then and you know what? And I was totally not aware. Okay, okay, I knew that okay, there are architects in our society who build, architects, they build our houses, but exactly what that subject is was a matter of concern at that point of time. And I believe me, I went to several bookstores to get some of the books which could actually help me to prepare for my exams. And I got one book. It was some ancient publication, some BARC entrance exam, some red
okay.
cover book, so far I remember. And and gradually I started, it started getting on me. And then and at that point of time, internet was also not data was not so
So
available,
yeah,
but still it there were abundant like but it was enough for me to to convince myself that okay, let's go for it, let's pursue for it. Then I gave nata, and then that's how I came into the field. I came
architecture
into
happened.
architecture.
All right. So yeah, very
Yeah,
interesting to know
exactly.
that you had the similar path, and yeah, I'm sure like B arc for you must have been disappointing. after graduation. We only realize that only after graduation. We feel overwhelmed when we join architecture school, but once we graduate, we realize like, oh man, I've not really studied architecture. I have a lot more to go. So when did you make that transition to landscape architecture? Like, how did you get into landscape, after graduating?
Okay, so what happened was it was 2014. So I had to like I had to like work as an intern. So as a part of my compulsory training for one semester. So at that point of time, I got a chance to work as an intern at Design Accord, and you know uh, that was I would what I'd like to point out over here is exactly what happened with me. I think I think the similar things this particular thing has happened to many other people because before I had joined Design Accord, I had an entirely a different notion about landscape architecture. Okay, like we had an elective. Believe me, it was a semester project, and we were given three exercises. Okay, to do in the name of landscape architecture exercises. Okay, and we were told and in the first two exercises were just about plants. So we had to go to some of the parks, and we were told to click the photographs and just to make just to document those just document okay those trees and shrubs and just like that. Okay, I had a notion that okay, landscape architecture is all about say trees and plants and stuff like that. Okay, now so when I started working at Design Accord, it was so Design Accord has like primarily it has got two verticals. Okay, so it's landscape and interior and architecture. So initially I started working in landscape projects, and that was a time when slowly I started liking the field after getting like not a clear but a partial picture where it cleared where this my previous misconception it was cleared at the very first time. Landscape architecture, it's not a field that deals with only plants and trees, but believe me, it's entirely plants and trees are there. It's one of the very important part, but landscape architecture is entirely a very vast narrative. Okay, it involves many perspectives. It's entirely different outlook, right? But again, 2014, I was in ninth semester. Like definitely, it was not possible for me to comprehend like something in a bigger picture. But at least uh, to a very little extent, I learned. Uh, but that was enough for me to convince myself that okay, this is a field where I can pursue. But still, I was not convinced. But so I thought that I should take some more time. So after giving my thesis, I again started working at Design Accord. And after working there for 2 years, then that was the time when I finally decided, yeah, this is something which I actually want to do. So
All right.
that's how slowly and slowly being into this field, I finally decided I need to go much deeper and I need to learn, the basic and the theories. And that's how like today, like I'm still, working in this field, and that's what I'll be doing in future. Maybe that's what my plan is.
And how would you define landscape architecture? You mentioned that it's not just plants, trees, but it's much more. So, what is landscape architecture, and what are the different elements in landscape architecture? What was that in 2 years that helped you become a landscape architect?
We think in a different perspective about landscape architecture. Okay. Uh, Now, when I was a student in architecture, I thought landscape architecture in a totally different perspective. Okay, and it's nothing wrong. Why? Because uh, you know, when I'm talking about common mass, when I'm talking about common people, still like they like we couldn't do anything. I'm not saying that we couldn't do anything, but we couldn't do much uh, where we could actually, make people aware of what this field is. Okay, and I'm not blaming this like uh, I'm blaming ourselves that we were unable to do it. No, that's not like that. uh, like like there are professionals who did like fantastic projects, and like you go around and you see all the nice places which are like designed in a fantastic way. But the thing is that the people, when they comprehend, okay, they they forget to realize this particular fact, that when you were designing, that when I'm working on a street, or when I'm sitting, say when I'm enjoying my time, in an open area in the plaza sort of that, okay, that open space itself, and if there are, say, there if see and if there are, 3 or 4 or 5 trees, if there are benches, and if everything is nicely coordinated, if everything is nicely put over there, it's someone has actually put an effort to design that. Okay, now this sort of awareness, now being a common man, being a layman, if I go out and if I see a like if I go to a place, say I'm talking about a shop front, a mall front plaza sort of that, and I see a place with nice paving and with nice, and like what I mean to say is a nice design place. But I would never think that, okay, there is a professional, there's a profession called which is like landscape architect, so they did something like that, right? So this is a clear like, I'm not saying a misconception, but this is lack of awareness. Okay, and like there was a time, like, to be very honest, that it was not limited to the common people, but being architect, uh, like, lot, there are, even today, there are many people who are being architects. They can't even fully comprehend this field, that is landscape architecture. Okay, they also think that, okay, so you're a landscape architect, at the end of the day, what you will do, you will just put some trees like that. Okay, so these are the conceptions and the misconceptions, you know that we all have. Okay, but what I want to say that, this landscape architecture is not limited to only, putting trees and something like that. Or even if I say that I've gone to visit a mall, and when I see the mall front area, and there I see nice paving and nice feature walls, nice water cascade, and nice trees. And if I say that is landscape architecture, yes, that is landscape architecture, but that is not the end. Okay, so landscape architecture is a huge thing, right? So it includes that, what I'm saying, like environmental design. Okay, so that involves, like, it can be, say, a quarry, a stone quarry, which we are storing it. Uh, then we can talk about master planning. Then we can talk about, say, research, and we have a hell lot of things to to study, to do research. That can be anything, that can be materials, we can do research on lightings, outdoor lightings. In fact, like, think about it, outdoor lightings play a very vital role in our society. Say, talking about the nightlife, talking about especially the street life. You know like, we need the sense of belongingness, we need a lot of things, right? So landscape architecture, as I was saying, that it involves a lot of verticals, and that's what I'm saying. That environmental design, it involves master planning, landscape design, it involves research. Uh, it's like a city where I'm connecting all the greens, and city where I'm connecting all the waters, all the blues and the greens, and so it's a huge thing. It's not only just limited, just to do a gardens, or gardens. I'm talking about the small
Yeah.
backyard or fronted gardens or terrace gardens, and just doing all those, like, something only to deal with trees and all. No, it's not like that. It's
Yeah.
entirely a huge field, entirely a totally different field. Okay, we need to understand many other allied subjects. We need to understand we need to have a basic concept of hydrology, the geology. We need to understand, the soil characteristics. We need to, like, we need to understand the ecology, what ecology stands for, how is it important. Okay, and we need to understand, the basic concept of like the the watershed, and how and like the drainage patterns, and there are many things that we are supposed to to learn, supposed to nurture, and like constantly, we need to study, we need to keep up, updated. uh, there are many things about materiality, there are many things about new materials in the sense, like I'm talking about which are both limited to structure, non-structural element in that way. Okay, so yeah, it's a huge thing. It's a huge story, if I say. Okay.
But like how do you approach a landscape project? You spoke about the various problems and the resolutions, but how do you start the
Sure.
process of a landscape project? Does it start from a sketch, or does it start from research, or do you leverage technology these days to execute a landscape project?
See, now this is also very subjective. Okay, and I think most of the people will disagree to me, because it actually depends on mentalities. Now, there are a few people who do not believe in taking leverage from modern technologies. Okay, and there are people who actually do believe that,
Right.
no, let's take it. Okay, so but eventually we have to work with all the people, right? Now, because, like, just to give an example, that in college there are a few people who will say, no, do drafting in hand, and some will say, no, no, you can do it in CAD, just in that way. Okay, and people will say, people who are drafting in CAD, they can't do design. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's very subjective.
Right.
Now, see, when I'm talking about starting a project, now, of course, for me as a landscape architect, my land is my canvas. Okay, now, land is not a flat. Okay, now it has its own life. It has its own characteristics. Okay, so today, like, with so much scientific advancements, now we have got, say, GIS, we have got many other softwares which actually give us, like, like a baseline data, and a set of like, and certain inventories that actually help us, to analyze it. Now, when I have a site, so the thing is that basically I require three things. First and foremost thing is the brief. Like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Now, I have got a land. Now, what am I supposed to do? So are you supposed to tell me what? Now, if the client, clarifies that, okay, if no, I need this and that, this and that. Okay, so I was like, okay, at least I'll have a clear idea, right? Now I need to know, okay, what is the land about? Okay, and the very important thing is that if I just say, okay, now this is my plot boundary, so I'll just work on this much portion. Rest, I'm just not going to look into it. Now, that's wrong, because neighborhood plays a very vital role. Now, like, what will happen? Suppose I have a site, and there is a drain that runs through my site. Okay, now, just because like, like, it falls on my side, so I'll just say, okay, I'll just consider only this much portion of like, the portion of drain that falls into my within my site periphery. I'm going to focus on that. The rest, I'm not going to do it. So eventually, what will happen? The water won't listen, right? The water won't understand that, okay, that now this site belongs to someone else. So I won't. I will stop just at the border. So in that way, first I need to understand, of course, on a macro level perspective. So today we have, as you have mentioned, of course we take leverage. Of course we do take leverage. First we try to have a understanding on a macro level. We do the neighborhood study. We understand the layers. We understand the landforms. We understand the water, that how the drainage is happening, because that is the crucial part that we always that we always struggle, because uh, in any of the cases, what you see, what we all see today, the major problem in any urban, especially in urban spaces, are flooding. Okay, and in almost each and every occasions, man-made disasters, right? So just to address, just to consider all such factors, uh, the moment we start working, we do study about we do a detailed study of all those aspects, and after we are done with that those studies, then then we gradually we start understanding the design problems. We do the zoning, and of course then we start like then of course we start doing it on like understanding that we go much deep into the design process. We do sketches, and then but the most important thing is to define the design program that we always that we always that we need to do once the site analysis and everything is done. And then so that design program will actually will include what sort of activities, the final activities are happening. If say, so for example, if it is a group housing project, so the design program will talk about exact what sort of spaces that we want to curve over there. Like, is it like where are we going to have, say, a play? How many play areas will be there? How many outdoor activities will be there? What sort of outdoor activities will be there? So now, when I have, say, a detailed site analysis report, I have all the drainage patterns, I have everything, and I have got all sort of data. I've got all sort of bylaws, all the norms, and once I have that design program in hand, okay, so these are the things that I have to make, so then we can easily start working on. So that's how the process it happens. Yeah.
All right. And you also detail out all the softscape, hardscape. I mean, when do you get to the detailed process of making the drawings? Like, what does a typical landscape plan consist of?
Okay, so when I talk about a landscape layout, right now there are certain ways we can define it. When I'm talking about comprehensive landscape development plan, okay, so ideally that plan will have uh, the lines, the lines that those lines will clearly demarcate, will differentiate the levels, uh, and will differentiate different surfaces, and whether it will actually differentiate the hardscape and the softscape. And then once the lines and all other all the shadings and all the plant those templates are put on the drawings, the next thing that comes are the levelings. So like what are the space, what are the spaces, like the pathways, and like is it like a lawn, or, and then the third the next thing. So basically if I just want to like shorten it up in a way, so the first thing that we need to understand in a CLDP is the first and foremost thing is the levels. I mean the grading that I'm talking about. Okay, so the most vital information. Okay, the second thing that comes are the levels. Okay, so so now, so what are those spaces, right? And then the third one will be a very basic idea of the dimensioning. Okay, just to give like that can be either I can give a dimension of say three or four in 3 or 4 places, so that will give a clear idea of the proportion, a basic idea of the proportion, basic idea of the scale in that way. So a drawing, so when I'm now this is a detailed layout. I'm talking about a detailed layout on a, say, on a schematic level states out of that. This is something which are not which will definitely not be used for working drawings out of that, but a layout that has all the spaces clearly drafted with lines with and all the leveling are done properly, and the levels are also marked. So I think that is enough to give someone a clear idea about, okay, what the space it talks about. Yeah, so that's a basic idea of a landscape plan, a basic landscape plan. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
generally, in landscape projects, there are a ton of drawings, right? At least upwards of 100, 200. I've seen companies print out a lot of drawings, 10,000, 20,000 drawings as well for some projects. I think it depends on the scale as well, but
No, definitely it depends on the scale.
most projects are bigger scale, right? And especially since you're working for a MNC, I think you work for CPG Corporation, right? So,
Yeah,
what are
yeah.
the kind of projects that the bigger firms do? Is it more of master planning? Is it even the smaller scale projects as well?
Look, if you're talking about, say, like the bigger companies, yeah, definitely they're into the master planning. They do like it can be a master planning of a few hundred acres of a urban park, or it can be master planning of a city. Okay, and the thing is that the question about getting tons of drawings, yeah, it's true, but not in that way. See, the thing is that it's all about legibility. Okay, now think about it. You have the site area is itself is say a few hundred acres. Okay, and you are putting that site that whole 100 200 acre site on a single A1 page. So like, think about the scale, that what all things you can show in that particular plan, right? Like uh, so what happens is that at that point of time we need to like blow up. Now we need to understand that the details that we give generally, now of course, when I'm making, say, good for construction drawings, the drawings which will be used on site. So when I'm, say, for example, I'm doing a detail, of a planter, I'm doing a detail of any of those elements, say, for example. Now I need to give the details will be details have to be so much, so clear. When I'm doing a planter edge, I have to even say what sort of material will be there in the cladding, and how much mortars will be there. So then, is it a block work or is it a brick work? Then, like on the inner side, there has to be one, say, there has to be one plastering will be there. Then I'll have soil, I'll have earth, and then I'll have good earth on top, where I'll have, then I'll have trees planted on that. So think about a section. Now I need to show all these details, not at least in 1 and 20, 1 and 10 scale, sort of that, right? Now I have a huge project, I have few hundred acres, and I have got, say, so many sections, so many details. And the moment I start detailing out each and everything, so of course it will take a lot of sheets, it will take a lot of time in that way, right? So it depends on the legibility, it depends on to what details I'm going. Now when I'm doing, say, master planning, when I'm doing like, say, when I'm doing working on, say, policy levels, I'm mostly working on policy levels. So where I'm not supposed to go to that detail, so definitely I won't, I won't be working hard, getting those details, and making those details. So in that way, things are quite different. It varies from projects to projects, it varies from typology of the projects. Yeah, that's it.
All right. The reason why I asked you that was because I'm sure you heard of BIM, and I'm not really
Yeah.
sure how much of an overlap BIM has with landscape, because now we've heard of digital twins where they're making digital replicas of cities and buildings. What about
Yeah.
digital replicas of landscape? And especially because BIM helps in facilities management, which is after you finish the project, how do you maintain that project? So could you give us some light on how much BIM is there in landscape, or if it's really there as well?
Look, see, I am not sure about India. Why? Because I think it will take some time over here, especially for BIM to control this landscape architecture, to be very honest. Okay. Now, see, now when I talk about BIM, and when I'm talk about uh, several tools, say, when I'm, say, just for example, when I'm talking about Revit. Okay. Now, see, like, there is a saying that Revit is not landscape friendly software. Okay, like,
Yeah,
it's actually true. Now,
yeah,
I myself have worked in Revit, and in the name of landscape, I had just two or three options. Maybe in the massing and site
yeah,
ribbon, I had just that topo surface, and that's it. And when I had to make a topography, I had to give those spot levels, and at the end of the day, I got the contours and triangulations. But even if I wanted to, make those triangulations and contours, do some fine tuning, I couldn't do it. Now, See, the thing is that, of course, BIM has its own advantages, right? Now, in landscape, see, drainage is a very important thing. Now, think about a site that has, which is like few thousand square meters site, and say 80% of the site is on podium, on uh, on on top of the basement. Okay, and the site has got say two or three multi-story towers. Okay, so imagine that site, 80% of the site is on podium, and then you have the whole landscape areas on top of that, and you have all sort of say amenities, you have all sort of softscapes on top of a podium, and then you have got say multi-story towers. So now, how are you supposed to drain those water out? Because it's not on the natural ground; it's on the podium. So that's what we say subsurface grading, right? Now, over there, what we do, like what we have been doing till now, is just we used to perceive it in 2D format, right?
Yeah.
And we used to do the grading in 2D. Now, BIM helps to basically, perceive the whole scenario in 3D. And of course, once we try to see a few other tools like say Nevis walks, that definitely helps in generating clashes. Now, when I'm talking about such scenario where I have a podium and where I have a very complicated scenario where I have to drain all those water out, and I have RWP, I have all sort of piping, and and simultaneously, like it's a basement, so I have got hell lot of other pipes. I'll be having like like pipes for the the fire extinguisher pipes, and also so it's very complicated, right? So definitely BIM will help uh, like in such scenarios. But again, the interface and all sort of things, I don't think that it's quite supportive. But I'm not sure, but I have heard that Vectorworks, they have released one software that's entirely for landscape architecture. That's Landmark,
Yes.
and which the interface, it's really cool over there. Actually, over there you can actually analyze it that when I'm talking about say landforms, when I'm talking about say if I'm doing cut and fill, so so yes, you get to understand the amount of cut and fill happening. And of course BIM has its own perks, right? The schedule management, cost management, and whatnot. So yes, it's those things definitely you're going to get it through BIM. So yes, I think, but in India, I think it will take time. And in several locations now, think about some of the projects that are happening, say on a hilly slope, say you would say some of the landscape architects, they are designing a nice villa, say on top of a small hill, say in Vagamon, or maybe in some nice hilly area, and they over there they're cutting, they're making they're using the local vernacular materials. They're making retaining walls, those stone gabion walls. So over there, I don't think that BIM is so much required in such scenarios, in such boutique projects out of that. But yes, a project which is quite multidisciplinary now, especially in infrastructure projects, in metros and airports. So I over there, slowly and slowly, yes, BIM people, the clients, they're asking for like they're asking for BIM, they're asking
Right.
for that landscape architects, they also should do things in to the get the BIM models out of that. But slowly and slowly, definitely it will overtake. But yes, I think the interface needs to be tech to be it should be user friendly for the landscape architects. That's what I feel. Yep.
Yeah, I think now because of Open BIM and IFC, I'm sure like you can work with Vectorworks and export a model and do a clash detection
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Revit. So I think it shouldn't be a problem in coming few years. And yeah, in India, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
exactly in
Yeah.
that way. Yeah, that's a good thing, that at least you can collaborate with other softwares. You can actually, yeah, that's a good thing.
All right. I want to talk about how generally in India, the as architects we all earn pretty low wages, but how good is it for a landscape architect? Is does it depend really on the firm, or is there like a typical earning for earning range for a landscape architect in India, and how much can you grow as a landscape architect?
Okay, this is a very controversial question that you have asked. Okay, now I'm sorry. Um, look, it's true that like this is not a like uh, uh, unlike IT engineers or software engineers. Okay, we 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 can't expect much from like in terms of salary or wages in that way. And it's true. It's true because we need to understand. Of course, the people who are working in as IT professionals, they're dealing with clients and they're dealing with projects, and the users of that particular project will be some millions. But whereas for landscape architecture project, we need to understand, at the end of the day, we need to think about the end users. Okay, so in this, so there are several other factors, that define the certain pace, the pay, the pay and wages, whatever. But yes, I think it matters. It matters a lot in terms of the firms. It matters a lot in terms of like I can't say that irrespective of firms, a graduate will earn this much. It depends from places to places. Say in Delhi, there is a certain range. In Ahmedabad, there is a certain range. In Bangalore, people pay on a different basis. But what we have seen in the last 2 3 years, that of course the market has been pretty down. Just and I really don't know what will happen. Just and in the midst of this down market, we had this COVID, and I'm not sure that our post-COVID scenario, how things will whether it's going to turn around or not. I'm not sure. But yes, what happened so far, my experience is concerned, like we were a part of this placement committee in SPA, and over there we try to analyze that what sort of what is the trend that usually that is going through at this point of time. And we had tried to collect data, uh, and over there we have actually spoken to many people who have graduated from different colleges, and we have asked, uh, and so it's kind of survey that we did.
Right.
So this I'm talking about 2018. So I was in second year. So so yes, I can say that on an average, a landscape architect can and earn around 5 to 6 sort of that. Okay, a graduate. This
Right.
is a standard market standard that I can say. So if someone is getting more than that, so yes, he or she is getting above market. And if someone is getting less, then yes, he or she is getting less than the market. But again, we need to understand the type of firm that someone is it's going to work with. Why? Because if it's merely a startup, and maybe that's entirely it's totally a different scenario. That's totally a different issue, and that's maybe that's the personal thing between the employer and the employee. But I'm trying to say this the standard that I've mentioned, it's on the basis of like this is the standard which are followed by the MNCs, which are followed by the bigger companies, which are followed by the bigger like the consultancy firms out of that, in that way. Okay, but it might depends when the the firm size becomes small or something like that. But yes, 5 to 6 is a standard that I can say for for a fresher,
All right. And
provided that the person has this thing like
skill.
earlier experience. Now
All right.
that's the catch. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what does a typical career growth in a landscape architect's career look like? Do most landscape architects also start their own firm after a few years, or do they generally climb the ladder in the MNC or the firm they're working for? And what are the different roles, like senior landscape architect or is it a junior landscape architect, or is there other roles that a landscape architect can play?
See, the thing is that what uh, okay, I can explain it in 2 or 3 different ways. The first thing is that now when I'm talking about landscape design specifically. Okay, now in landscape design, uh, why I'm saying this, because at the first, when I'm talking about the different verticals. Okay, now think about a landscape architect who are working. entirely working in a, say, in a research based organization, sort of that. So that person will have a different designation, that person will have a different career growth, sort of that, right? The person who are working, say, for the government, maybe the person are working entirely working on policies and on working on, say, some other doing some program management for, say, for some urban development project or something like that. So that is entirely different. Now, what what you have asked in terms of, say, opening a firm or something like that, so this is a typical practice that we always perceive. Okay, this is something which always we see, that okay, now I'm a landscape architect, so what all I can do is that I can once I graduate, so yes, so I have got, say, two, three, four options. So what are those options? So what I can do is that, yes, now I need to brush up my design skills. So the best thing what I can do is that I can work under very great, some of the like good landscape architects. So what will happen if I go there? So once I start working over there, so I'll be, a part of the process. So I can nurture. So I'll have enough scope for introspection, and gradually I'll be, I'll be learning the process. And then what I can do is that, okay, now since I have a theoretical base, and now I know about the practice, and I can understand, okay, about all the vendors and all sort of other other consultants. So then, okay, then I can open my own firm. So this is a career growth. Some people, they take it.
Right.
Some of the people, they have already decided ki, I don't want to open my own setup. So what they do is that, so they will just, once they graduate, they will think about, okay, so I need a job. Now now here lies the catch. So the thing is that, uh, uh, of course, what personally I feel is, at the end of the day, what we all need is our personal happiness, right? Now, of course, landscape architecture, we have to do something for the society. Of course, this sort of self actualization, it really matters. But if I talk about that Maslow's, that pyramid, which talk about, the hierarchy of human needs, sort of that, believe me, self actualization lies on top. But which is, like, in terms of the priority list, that has to be given the least priority. The first priority has to be given, the food, the shelter, the social relationship with my near and dear ones. Okay, so exactly that is some philosophy which I personally follow. Now, of course, as a landscape architect, we have immense responsibility. We can do many things, but first of all, we need to make ourselves happy. Okay, we need to have a proper, a decent job, a decent practice, whatever. But yes, just as we know, the field itself is very much, it's not smooth. So the initial struggle will be there. Now, as per the growth, so if someone is working, say, in a small organization, so as a landscape architect, it can be after a few years, can be senior landscape architects, then uh, can be an associate, and then can be a partner. Or if someone is working in a, say, in a bigger organization, like as joining as a landscape architect, so like similarly can be a senior, then can be, say, a lead landscape architect, and then can be a VP, vice president, then senior VP, whatever. If someone directly wants to, or maybe after working in 1 or 2 years in a small boutique firm, now someone decides that, no, I don't want to work in a boutique firm, and neither I want to work in a boutique firm, nor I want to open my own setup. So better I will be working directly for my client. So what I do, I go to a real estate office. I can work for, so I can work as an in-house landscape architect, you know, in
Windows.
any of the big builders,
Yeah.
and at that point of time, the designation might be different. So it will be like assistant general manager, then general manager, sort of that. So these are the typical way, that the the practices that we have noticed. But yes, things can be different. You know, like, those are quite exceptional cases. But yes, there are pretty different ways. People, some people can work, or can like like can contribute to the society, not being a landscape, not directly, not being a, say, a senior landscape architect, or a lead landscape architect, but can be, say, I'm talking about I'm talking about, say, United Nations, and I'm talking about WWF. So these are organizations, they are working for the restoration of for the restoration of, say, WWF and all those organizations. I'm talking about wetlands and all sort of ecosystems which are very much fragile. So yes, so there are certain professionals who are working for them, and maybe their designation will be different. Some people can definitely work for the government. Some people even can prepare for UPSC, and c- see, the thing is that it's not about what you actually do. You can definitely, but this particular field is so cool in that way, if I say, because it deals with so many parameters, because it involves so many parameters, that even if you, after you complete studying this course, the amount of wisdom that you will possess, you can definitely do something for the society. It doesn't matter if, even if you are a teacher, because the best part of the landscape architecture is, you have you have given the provision to plant trees. Now,
Yeah,
planting a tree is a
that's
part of the
brilliantly put.
design. So
Yeah,
that's the best part can happen in any of the field right now. So my work, so if some my client says that you have to do a work, and if the work involves planting a tree, that itself is the best part
yeah.
of the field, right? So yes, the kind of wisdom that that the professional will possess, definitely he or she can do, create a mark in the society. But yes, like but as you can say that, opening up the firm, or because in India at this point of time, the major landscape projects that we have seen are only limited to housing projects, and and of course in public spaces we can see. But but I'm talking about, say, tier 1 cities in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai. Yes, you can
Yeah.
see, you can see, there are various projects. But think about tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. Okay, like, I'm not sure about tier 4, tier 2, tier 3 cities I'm talking about.
Yeah.
In tier 3 cities, you won't find so much, intervention, by any of the landscape architects in that way. So yes, so this is one positive thing, is the that is, we have enough scope, we have huge scope of work that we can do.
Also, my follow-up question is: do you feel that it would benefit a landscape architect if he learns how to code and he learns coding?
See, now, for example, I'm doing a parametric, I'm thinking about doing something, in a so yeah, let's not complicate it. I'm talking about parametric architecture. Okay, and I'm doing, say, I'm using all those plugins. Okay, so yes, of course, I need to know the basic of the coding, and I need to understand those parameters on the basis of which I'm designing. Okay, so now, coding, I think coding is required. I think we all need to know. What I personally feel, the
Yeah,
way
the
the way the
world is.
world is, and and there's nothing wrong, in learning. It's something like, it's not about being landscape architect. I think we all should know. But in terms of today's market, the way the work, all the works are happening, I really don't think that coding will help a lot. But yes, to, like, as I've said, at this point of time, like, one example about, doing that parametric architecture and doing, so yes, for the scripting, it would be better if I have a basic knowledge of coding.
All right. Great, Mayuk. I think we had like a brilliant session. There's a lot of insane gyan that you gave us, and I'm definitely more enlightened on what exactly landscape architecture is, what it entails, how much it's not just the plants and trees, but much more. And before I let you go, we'll just run through the quick fire round in Archgyan, and you could give us brief answers to a couple of questions.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, who inspired you, or Who are your inspirations? Being a landscape architect, who do you follow as a landscape architect?
Okay, I'd like to mention my first boss, Mr. Majumdar. So yeah, he is my mentor. Today, whatever I am, I think he has a major contribution. Okay, and I really admire him. I really follow him. Yeah, and he's a gem of a person. He's just like I mean, yeah, and uh, so basically, uh, living. Uh, apart from Mr. Majumdar, then I have I have met many of the professionals who actually guided me in many occasions. I can name them, but the list will be
Okay,
it's going to be a very long list. So just because it's a quick rapid fire you have mentioned,
sure.
and there are several other people who are well-known landscape architects like Dan Kelly, Bill Bensley. So they are always my inspirations in that way. Yep.
All right. Which books would you consider your favorite in landscape architecture?
Okay, so books. So there is the Theory of Landscape Architecture by Michael Norrie, which is like that's I think that's a basic book that everyone should follow, and it has the whole landscape thing has been written in such a nice way. It's like everyone can go through it. It will be a storybook for everyone. Okay, I mean the simplest book that I can talk about. Like everyone can go, and everyone can understand, and everyone will understand that what landscape architecture is about.
Even the layman as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, where do you see yourself, say, 10 years from now? And how do you feel like technology is going to impact the way you're going to work?
I'm going to answer the first. I'm going to answer first about the technology. Okay, I'm very much scared about it. Okay,
Okay.
because scared in the sense like every day I get to see like there are new things, and I'm like, oh my god, again I need to learn this, again I need to learn that, something like that. Okay, now but again I have to keep myself updated, because maybe after 10 years I might see that everything will is happening on BIM, so I have to be pro on that, right? So if I totally ignore, and if I say that no, I won't be working on that, I won't be working on this. I'd rather, okay, my forte is just I'll be working on small projects, and that's why I need not to learn about BIM and all sort of that. But no, but I don't even know what will happen in 10 years. Okay, so in that way, technology wise, whatever it happens, I have to welcome it, and I need to keep updated. And regarding my career plan or something like that, so now I don't have any plans in terms of like, okay, I want to open my own setup and I want to
Right.
do my own practice out of that, so that I'm pretty much sure. So yes, I want to like continue working in offices, and I would like to explore some other fields, allied fields out of that. Like I myself, I'm very much interested about sustainability and environmental management and all. So gradually, I'll be I want to pursue some other courses regarding environmental management, and rather and at the end of the day, I want to do, maybe I'll be doing research on on say sustainability, or or about of on some policies about environmental management or something like that. Yeah.
All right. Brilliant. And my last question to you is, what advice would you give to architects, architecture students who are just starting off?
Architecture students,
No,
huh?
the guys who
Like,
graduated because they've already
okay.
taken, that's their choice, right? So the guys who graduated and find it very overwhelming once they hit and now because of the COVID situation, jobs are scarce. So what advice would you give to architecture students, those who want to pursue landscape architecture or architecture in general?
Okay, see, this is a very unfortunate situation, right? Like we never ever thought about it,
Yeah,
but there had been a few good things that we have seen. Good things in the sense that uh, like this is I mean, for the past 5 or 6 months, everything went everything everywhere, everything has been put on hold. But actually, what we have noticed that people, after a lot, like it like it never happened like that all of a sudden, the people are staying together at home, so there is a total different, life that we could see. But yeah, that's a totally on a different note. But of course, for the students, since this is something which this over here the scenario is quite different, just because the construction market has also, hit to a very extent. That's why in most of the cases, the officers, they have stopped hiring. That's the thing, right? So the students, they can actually, utilize this time, they can. And now there have been a number of courses that are available, so they can do it online. And they so basically they've got Coursera, they have got an academy, and all sort of things are there. So of course, if someone wants to pursue landscape architecture, okay, like for me, it always helped that I've worked 2 years, and I got an idea of what the field is about. And then I started doing landscape architecture. But again, there's one particular aspect that I want to convey it over here, that as you have like few minutes back you have asked me this question, right? That like in generally what landscape architects, what are their career graphs out of that. See, what we do generally, and what sort of practices that we see is a part of a landscape architecture. So we deal with landscape design, right? We are designing, say, furniture, oven furnitures. We're designing all the details. We're designing the spaces. But as I've like as I told you, landscape architecture itself is a huge field, right? It has got entirely several other verticals in that way, right? Now, the students, they can actually go through some of those courses, specific courses that talks about landscape architecture as a whole. At least they will get an understanding that what the subject is about. So and there are several other certifications. If someone is interested of sustainability, they can actually, they can get all the certifications about like IGVC, GRIHA. And if someone wants to, even if someone wants to go for project management out of that, they can actually, start, they can start preparing for PMP examination. So there are a lot of things that the students, they can do. They can utilize their time. They can actually, make their soft skill better in this way. And they can study as much as possible, like other things that will definitely help them to
Yeah.
to understand, okay, then what they can do in future, sort of that. Yeah.